Hi, I'm Dr. Steve Sinatra, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about hearts, but a lot about horses. And my story goes back to this machine. Actually, about 5-6 years ago, I was fighting off a hip replacement. I saw John Thorp in Southern California, and he worked on me with a device that was similar to this. This is an upgraded device, the Equiscope for horses. So now I want to tell you the story about Becky's Madeline. She's a 2-year-old. She's by Desert Party, and David Smith and I bred Desert Party together about 7 years ago. And he went on to the Derby, and he's really a good sire. And he's the sire of Becky's Madeline. And Becky's Madeline is racing off Lasix. She's on the Equiscope, and she is on my nutraceutical support. And I just added omega-3 to that as well, and coconut oil. Remember, I'm trying to really form a concoction here where these horses don't bleed. Fortunately, she hasn't bled. She's a good 2-year-old. She broke a maiden at Penn National, won a baby stake at the Finger Lakes. She's a really good horse. She is going to be racing in the New York Stake in the next few weeks. And again, we're aggressively treating her with the Equiscope and my nutraceutical supports. You know, one of the greatest thrills I've had in racing include Becky's Madeline and includes Admirals War Chest. Because whenever you win a stake race, whether it's a baby stake or when you're racing at that level, it brings out my own athleticism. I used to play rugby and football, and I know what it's like to compete at a very high level. At the stakes level, it is so hard to win. My greatest thrill is really the story of Run for Cecilia. It is a story that has so much feeling to it. It's about a little girl, my granddaughter, who has a congenital neurological illness, and she can't run. She's in a wheelchair. And I named a horse after her. I called her Run for Cecilia. And Run for Cecilia must have gotten bitten by a rodent or got a tick in the field in Florida. But she came down with a neurological disease. I had so many consults on this horse who felt that she did have neurological disease, and we were stuck. She can't run. In fact, she could barely even train. I called up John Thorp. I said, "Do you think the Equiscope could help this horse?" And he goes, "Yes." So he came down. We treated Run for Cecilia. We put Run for Cecilia on my nutraceutical program. Lo and behold, she started to improve. However, she was getting dusted in her races. She raced at Monmouth, she raced at Philadelphia Park, and she was getting destroyed. We took her out of training, treated her with acupuncture, again the Equiscope, nutraceutical support. We were going to try her on the grass because we thought that she had a big foot, and she was getting dusted on the dirt. However, we had a race against the boys. In other words, there wasn't a filly maiden special weight on the grass. So I called Cecilia up, and I spoke to her mother and father. I said, "I'd like you to come to the races and watch your namesake run." But guess what? It rained that day, and they took the race off the turf. So now I got 2 strikes against me. I got Run for Cecilia on the dirt, which she didn't perform well on the dirt, and now she's racing against the boys. So now we're racing against 5 males. And, Cecilia's father ends up getting a speeding ticket going to Boston. But everybody got there. Cecilia's in the wheelchair. And I said to Tammy, I said, "Tammy, first of all, there's my granddaughter up there. She's in a wheelchair, and she's looking at you. Cecilia's waving down to her, and Tammy waves back up. And I said to Tammy, "Tammy, this horse runs with the pack. She just runs in the middle, runs with the other horses, doesn't know she has to pass the other horses." So Tammy said, "I can fix that." Well, Tammy has won over 4,000 races as a jockey, so, coming from her, it gave me a little confidence. We're in a 10 position. We're out in the track. We had Cecilia in the wheelchair. She says to my wife, Jan, "Grandma, is that my horse wearing the purple?" And this other woman next to us says, "Is that your horse?" to Cecilia, and Cecilia says, "Yes." So my wife says, "Yeah, I'm a little embarrassed. We own the horse, and this is my granddaughter." And we named it Run for Cecilia because she can't run because she's in a wheelchair. And she breaks last, and all of a sudden the track announcer goes, and there's run for Cecilia, racing on the outside against the boys. She's really in trouble today. And now you can't even see her. She's about 15 or 20 lengths behind. At around 5/8 of a mile, now she comes into the picture, and now she starts passing a few horses. I go, boy, this is great. I said, hopefully she's not going to take last and embarrass me. Then all of a sudden at the head of the stretch, there's only 2 or 3 horses in front of her. And then about 100 yards from the finish line, she's neck and neck with 2 horses. And at the finish line, she pokes her nose in front and she wins by a neck. I couldn't believe it. It was the greatest win I've ever experienced. And we couldn't bring a wheelchair into the winner's circle. They wouldn't allow us to bring it in, so her father picks her up. And we're in his winner's circle. We take the greatest picture of all time. And I have to tell you, to me, that was like winning the Kentucky Derby. I mean, to be there that day, to have a horse that breaks in the 10th position, that's supposed to run on a turf, runs on the dirt, is racing against the boys, and to have her win with my granddaughter there was just incredible. We're using the same technology on the granddaughters now. In other words, is there something in this racehorse that we discovered by accident that could help heal a human? In other words, this racehorse was crippled. She had neurological disease, and we treated her with all forms of vitamin E and the Equiscope, and we treated her with everything I've known, metabolic cardiology. But we got this horse in the winner's circle. My dream is to try to get my granddaughter into the winner's circle. In other words, can the Equiscope and can all the things that I know help her in trying to walk again? So that's my dream, and that's my hope and a prayer.